The massive alien fleet floated in the darkness of space. The Concordiate ships stretched out in a perfect line, guarding the edge of their territory. Hundreds of vessels, each one gleaming with advanced technology, waited for anything that might cross into their space. Admiral Ta sat in his command chair, his four-fingered hands moving over the control panel. His gray skin reflected the blue light of the screens around him. He looked at the newest reports from the Border Patrol, finding nothing unusual. Just another quiet cycle, he muttered to himself. The calm was broken by a sharp sound from the alert system. Officer Lee looked up from her station, her large eyes widening. "Admiral, we have something approaching from the unmapped region," she said. Her voice remained steady, though her inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of surprise among her kind. Admiral Tai turned his attention to the main screen. "Show me." A small blip appeared on the massive display. It moved slowly but directly toward their position. "Analysis?" he asked. Officer Lee studied her readings. "The ship is small, Admiral. Energy outputs are minimal. Material composition suggests basic alloys. By all measurements, this appears to be a primitive vessel." Admiral Tai made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. Primitives occasionally wandered into Concordiate space. It was usually a simple matter to turn them away. Send the standard greeting package. Include warnings about unauthorized entry into Concordiate territory. Minutes passed. The small ship continued its approach without changing course. "No response to our communications, Admiral," Officer Kim reported from the communication station. His voice carried a note of concern. "They may not have translation capabilities," Admiral Tai reasoned. "Fire a warning shot. Make it obvious, but keep it at a safe distance." The nearest Concordiate destroyer released a burst of energy that flashed past the approaching vessel. The beam lit up the emptiness of space, impossible to miss. The small ship continued forward without hesitation. Admiral Ta frowned. "Fire another. Closer this time." A second energy beam cut through space, passing just meters from the unknown vessel's hull. Any reasonable being would understand the message. "Still no change in course, Admiral," Officer Lee reported. "They're either not seeing our warnings or—" She hesitated. "Or they're ignoring them," Admiral Ta finished her thought. He ordered the main view screen to magnify the approaching ship. For the first time, they got a clear look at the vessel. It was unlike anything in the Concordiate database, where Concordiate ships were curved and elegant. This vessel was angular and compact. It had no unnecessary features, no decorative elements. Every part seemed to serve a specific purpose. Most disturbing was the placement of what appeared to be weapon systems, integrated perfectly into the hull design rather than added as visible deterrents. "The ship design doesn't match our initial readings," Officer Lee said quietly. "There's something different about its construction." Admiral Ta felt a chill run through his body. His instincts, developed over 40 cycles of military service, warned him that something was wrong. This wasn't a primitive vessel stumbling into their territory. This was something else entirely. "Open a direct communication channel," he ordered. Officer Kim worked quickly. "Channel open, Admiral." Admiral Ta stood straight, his voice firm, as he delivered the formal warning. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Ta of the Concordiate fleet. You have entered restricted space. Halt your approach immediately or face direct consequences. This is your final warning." The seconds stretched into minutes. The bridge crew watched the main screen, waiting for any sign of response. Instead of slowing or changing course, the ship, now identified on their screens as AS Invictus, suddenly accelerated. Its speed doubled, then tripled in moments. "Impossible," whispered Officer Lee. "Their engines couldn't possibly." "Battle stations," Admiral Ta shouted. All ships formed defensive pattern. The Concordiate fleet began to move, its perfect line shifting into a combat formation. Warning lights flashed across the command deck. "The vessel is heading directly toward the center of our formation," Officer Kim reported, his voice rising with alarm. Admiral Ta watched as the small ship, this Invictus, moved with surprising grace between the first line of Concordiate vessels. Its speed and maneuverability defied their calculations. What kind of species builds a ship like that? He wondered aloud. On his screen appeared a simple text message, the first communication from the approaching vessel. Concordiate Fleet, we are HSS Invictus of Earth. Prepare to be educated. Officer Park couldn't believe the readings on his screen. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the sensors again, hoping for a different result. The numbers remained the same. Admiral, I've run the analysis 3 times, he said, turning to face Admiral Ta. Their propulsion system is unlike anything in our database. It appears to be some kind of compact fusion drive, but the energy output, he shook his head. The readings must be wrong. No engine that small could produce that much power. Admiral Ta moved to look at the screen himself. The data showed impossible numbers, energy levels that should require a ship 10 times larger than the human vessel. Could our sensors be malfunctioning? He asked. All systems are operating correctly, Officer Lee confirmed from her station. Whatever we're seeing is real. The bridge of the Concordiate flagship fell silent as the crew watched the small human ship move through space with impossible grace. Inside the HSS Invictus, Captain Han sat calmly in his command chair. Unlike the busy, crowded bridges of Concordiate vessels, the human ship's command center was minimal and efficient. Just 6 crew members operated the entire warship. Captain Han placed his hand on the neural interface panel built into his chair's arm. The cool surface lit up at his touch, tiny filaments connecting to the receptors implanted in his palm. In an instant, his mind linked with the ship's systems. A 3-dimensional map of the space around them appeared in his mind. He could see every Concordiate vessel, their positions, their energy readings, their weapon systems, all without looking at a screen. Status report, he said quietly. Commander Yoon looked up from her station. Adaptive shielding at maximum strength, Captain. They'd surrounded us with 63 vessels. She smiled slightly. Their weapons are impressive to look at but inefficient in design. They've prioritized visual intimidation over practical combat effectiveness. Captain Han nodded. A common mistake for species that haven't faced serious opposition. They rely on numbers rather than efficiency. Lieutenant Jin spoke from the tactical station. Their communication channels are in chaos. They can't understand how we're moving the way we are. Let's show them something really interesting, then, Captain Han said. Navigation. Pattern Omega-6. Omega-6 confirmed, replied the navigation officer. The HSS Invictus suddenly changed direction, performing a tight spiral that brought it within meters of 2 Concordiate cruisers. The human ship then cut a path directly between them, moving so quickly that the alien vessels had no time to fire. On the Concordiate flagship, Admiral Ta watched in disbelief as the human ship performed maneuvers that should have torn it apart. Impossible, he whispered. No ship that size should be able to change vector that quickly. The G-forces alone would kill any crew. Officer Lee looked up from her station. Admiral, I'm detecting some kind of inertial control system on the human vessel. They've somehow found a way to neutralize the effects of rapid acceleration. Admiral Tae's 4-fingered hand tightened into a fist. This single ship was making his entire fleet look foolish. Hundreds of the Concordiate's finest vessels, equipped with the most advanced technology in known space, and they couldn't even keep track of one small human warship. Enough of this, he said firmly. All vessels, target the human ship's propulsion systems. Disable it, but I want it captured intact. There's technology on that vessel that we need to understand. The order went out across the fleet. 63 ships adjusted their positions, weapons charging. Inside the Invictus, Commander Yoon noted the change immediately. They're targeting our engines, Captain. All ships preparing to fire simultaneously. Captain Han remained calm. They finally decided to take us seriously. It's about time. Through his neural link, he sent a series of commands to the ship's defense systems. Prepare countermeasures. Let's show them what happens when they challenge a human warship. Lieutenant Jin smiled. Should we show them our main weapon systems, Captain? Not yet, Captain Han replied. Let's see what they can do first. No need to reveal all our capabilities at once. The Concordiate fleet opened fire. A coordinated barrage of energy weapons, all targeting the Invictus's engine section. The space around the human ship lit up with destructive energy. When the light faded, the Concordiate crew expected to see the human vessel disabled and drifting. Instead, the Invictus emerged completely unharmed, its shields glowing slightly but otherwise unchanged. How is this possible? Admiral Ta demanded. Our combined firepower should have overwhelmed any shielding system. Officer Park's voice was barely above a whisper as he reported the impossible truth. Admiral, their shields. They adapted to our weapons frequency. They actually grew stronger during our attack. Admiral Ta stared at the small human ship on his view screen, a cold feeling of dread settling over him. What kind of civilization had they just challenged? 20 Concordiate ships moved forward in perfect formation. Their sleek, curved hulls gleamed in the starlight as they surrounded the human vessel. Energy weapons glowed along their sides, charging to full power. Attack Pattern Delta ordered Sub-Commander J from the lead ship. Surround and disable. The alien vessels moved with practiced precision, taking positions that would allow them to fire from all directions. Their targeting systems locked onto the HSS Invictus, calculating firing solutions based on the human ship's previous movements. Inside the Invictus, warning signals flashed across the bridge displays. Multiple targeting locks detected, Lieutenant Jin reported. They're attempting to predict our movement patterns. Captain Han studied the tactical display through his neural link. He could see each Concordiate ship, their weapon systems, their shield configurations. Most importantly, he could see the gaps in their formation, small imperfections invisible to anyone without the neural interface's enhanced perception. They're learning, he said, but not quickly enough. Commander Yoon, prepare defensive countermeasures. Commander Yoon's fingers moved across her console. Point defense systems active. Kinetic strikers online and awaiting your command. Captain Han nodded. Remember our mission parameters. Minimal force. We're not here to start a war, just to make a point. The Concordiate ships fired simultaneously. 20 beams of destructive energy converged on the Invictus from all directions. It was a textbook maneuver designed to overwhelm any defensive system. But the human vessel's point defense technology was anything but textbook. Microseconds before the beams reached the Invictus, small emitters on the hull activated. The incoming energy weapons bent slightly, missing their targets by mere meters. Those that couldn't be deflected were absorbed by the adaptive shields, which pulsed with blue light. No damage, reported Lieutenant Jin with a small smile. Their targeting algorithms are confused by our defenses. Commander Yoon looked to Captain Han. Shall we respond, sir? Captain Han nodded once. 3 targets, engine systems only. Through the neural interface, Captain Han selected 3 Concordiate vessels, those positioned at key points in the formation. Commander Yoon activated the kinetic strike system with 3 simple commands. The human response was almost invisible to the naked eye. Small ports opened on the Invictus's hull, and 3 projectiles, each no larger than a human fist, launched toward the selected targets. The projectiles accelerated to near relativistic speeds within seconds. They moved so quickly that the Concordiate ships had no time to adjust their shields or evade. Each projectile struck with incredible precision, punching through the Concordiate ship's shields as if they weren't there. They hit exactly where intended, the main propulsion systems of each vessel. The 3 Concordiate ships suddenly went dark, their engines disabled. They began drifting helplessly, emergency systems flashing across their hulls. On the Concordiate flagship, Admiral Ta watched in horror as the damaged ships called for assistance. His bridge erupted into chaos as reports flooded in. 3 cruisers disabled with single shots. Shields were completely ineffective. Medical teams responding to casualties. Officer Lee looked up from her station, her face pale with shock. "This is impossible," she gasped. "A single ship couldn't disable 3 of our vessels in seconds, not without planet-based weapons." Admiral Togg gripped the arms of his command chair. Cold fear ran through him as he realized the terrible mistake they had made. This wasn't a primitive vessel that had wandered into their territory. This was something far more dangerous, a scout ship from an advanced civilization they had foolishly provoked. "Recall all forward vessels," he ordered, his voice tight with suppressed panic. "All ships, pull back to defensive positions. We've made a grave miscalculation." The order went out across the fleet. The attacking ships began to retreat, moving back toward the safety of the main fleet. But it was too late. The HSS Invictus suddenly accelerated to full speed, moving directly toward the heart of the Concordiate formation. Despite being surrounded by hundreds of alien vessels, the human ship cut through their lines like a knife through fabric. "They're attacking the flagship," Officer Kim shouted. Admiral Taz stood from his chair, watching as the small human vessel grew larger on the main screen. It moved with impossible speed and precision, evading every attempt to intercept it. "All ships, protect the flagship," he ordered. Dozens of Concordiate vessels moved to intercept, but the human ship was too fast, too agile. It weaved between them, occasionally firing small, precise shots that disabled but didn't destroy. Inside the Invictus, Captain Han directed the ship through the gaps in the alien formation. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, maintaining systems and reporting status without panic or excitement. "Their fleet coordination is breaking down," Commander Yoon noted. "They're not used to an enemy that can penetrate their formation." Captain Han nodded. "That's the difference between our approaches. They build ships to impress and intimidate. We build ships to fight and survive." The Invictus continued its advance, heading straight for the Concordiate flagship. Not to destroy it, but to demonstrate something that the aliens needed to understand. The human vessel wasn't just surviving their attack, it was winning. The Concordiate flagship shook as another nearby vessel exploded. Admiral Togg grabbed his command chair to stay upright. Around him, his crew worked frantically to coordinate their scattered fleet. Warning lights flashed across every screen, and the smell of burned circuitry filled the bridge. "Damage report," Admiral Ta demanded. 12 vessels disabled, 4 with critical damage. Officer Lee responded, her voice trained. "The human ship is targeting our communication arrays and propulsion systems with incredible precision." Admiral Ta watched the tactical display with growing dread. The single human vessel moved through his fleet like a predator among prey, striking with surgical precision before moving to its next target. Despite being fired upon by dozens of ships simultaneously, it had taken only minor damage. Reinforcements arriving in 3 minutes, Officer Kim announced from the communication station. "The 3rd Battle Group has responded to our distress call." A small flicker of hope rose in Admiral Tay's chest. The 3rd Battle Group included some of the Concordiate's most powerful warships. Surely they could overwhelm this single human vessel. He stared at the tactical display, watching as the human ship continued to disable his vessels one by one. "What are they?" he whispered, almost to himself. "How can one ship do this?" Aboard the HSS Invictus, Captain Han felt the ship tremble as a Concordiate energy beam glanced off their shields. The neural interface showed him the damage, minimal, but adding up as the battle continued. "Atlas, status report," he commanded. A calm, gender-neutral voice responded from the ship's tactical system. "Enemy fleet coordination is deteriorating. Their communication systems are operating at 43% efficiency. I predict their reinforcements will arrive in approximately 2 minutes and 47 seconds." Captain Han nodded. The A's predictions had been flawless throughout the engagement, anticipating the aliens' movements with uncanny accuracy. "Open a secure channel to Earth Command," he ordered. A small holographic display appeared before him, showing the Earth Command insignia before switching to the face of Admiral Su. "Captain Han, The Admiral acknowledged. Your status. First contact scenario has deteriorated. Captain Han reported calmly. The Concordiate fleet opened fire despite our attempts at communication. We've been forced to demonstrate our defensive capabilities, requesting diplomatic support. Admiral Su nodded gravely. Acknowledged, Captain. ASS Harmony is already en route to your position. Maintain defensive posture only. No escalation. Understood. Admiral. Invictus out. As the communication ended, Commander Yoon turned from her station. Hull integrity at 78%, Captain. Our adaptive shields are struggling to adjust to their varied weapon frequencies. Captain Han frowned. Despite their technological advantage, they couldn't fight an entire alien fleet indefinitely. Atlas, plot us a course to create some distance. We need to buy time until the Harmony arrives. Course plotted, the AI responded. Executing now. The Invictus suddenly changed direction, accelerating away from the main Concordiate fleet. Several alien ships gave chase, but they couldn't match the human vessel's speed or maneuverability. On the Concordiate flagship, Admiral Ta watched with relief as the human ship retreated. They're pulling back, he announced. Perhaps they've realized they can't stand against our full might. Officer Park studied his sensors carefully. I don't think they're retreating, Admiral. Their movement patterns suggest a tactical repositioning. They may be. A new alert sound cut him off. The sensor officer's eyes widened as he checked the readings. Admiral, Officer Park announced, his voice trembling slightly. Long-range sensors are detecting another vessel approaching rapidly from the direction of human space. Admiral Ta moved quickly to the sensor station. Show me. The display shifted to show a new contact moving toward them at incredible speed. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel much closer to their position than should have been possible, indicating a level of navigational precision the Concordiate had never achieved. Analysis. Admiral Ta demanded. Officer Park worked quickly, his fingers moving across his console. It's definitely of human design. Admiral. Similar energy signatures to the first vessel, but he paused, rechecking his readings. This one is much larger, nearly 3 times the size of the first ship. A hush fell over the Concordiate bridge. The reinforcements from the third battle group were still 2 minutes away. For now, they faced not 1 but 2 human vessels with technology that outmatched their own. Is it another warship? Admiral Tai asked quietly. Officer Park studied the readings. I don't think so, Admiral. The weapon signatures are minimal. It has powerful shields and drives, but its configuration is different. More symmetrical. In the silence that followed, Officer Kim spoke up from the communication station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the new human vessel. Admiral Ta straightened his uniform. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of his fleet and possibly the Concordiate itself. Put it through, he ordered. The main screen flickered, and for the first time, the Concordiate crew saw the face of a human. The creature looked surprisingly similar to their own species, though with fewer eyes and strange, fur-like growth on the top of its head. This is Captain Sun of the human diplomatic vessel HFY Harmony, the creature said, its voice translated by their systems. We request an immediate cessation of hostilities and offer peaceful dialogue. Admiral Ta looked at the approaching human diplomatic vessel on his screen. The third battle group would arrive too late. He had one chance to change the outcome of this first contact. All ships target the damaged human warship, he ordered. Ignore the diplomatic vessel. We must show strength before negotiations begin. His officers stared at him in shock. Admiral, they're requesting peace talks, Officer Lee protested. And we will talk, Admiral Te replied coldly. But from a position of strength, not weakness. All batteries. Fire. The remaining Concordiate ships turned their weapons toward the HSS Invictus. The human vessel was already damaged, its shield strength reduced after the long battle. This final, massive attack might overwhelm it. Hundreds of energy beams converged on the Invictus, creating a blinding flash that temporarily overloaded the sensors on every nearby ship. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. When the sensors cleared and vision returned, Admiral Ta leaned forward eagerly. The space where the human ship had been was filled with energy discharge and debris. "Did we get it?" he asked. Officer Park checked his readings. His four-fingered hands trembled slightly. "No, Admiral," he whispered. "The human ship is still there." The Invictus remained, its hull glowing red from the heat of the attack. It was clearly damaged, with visible breaches in its outer plating, but it was intact and operational. Before Admiral Ta could order another attack, the second human vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It positioned itself between the Invictus and the Concordiate fleet. Unlike the warship, this vessel was elegant and beautiful, where the Invictus was angular and compact, designed purely for combat efficiency. This new ship was larger and featured sweeping curves. Its hull bore symbols and markings that even the aliens could recognize as peaceful in intent. "This is Ambassador Jin of the HSS Harmony," came a transmission that broadcast across all channels and frequencies. "We come in peace and request an immediate cessation of hostilities." The voice was calm and measured, with no hint of the anger that would be justified after the Concordiate's unprovoked attack. A visual feed accompanied the message, showing the human female dressed in formal attire. "Your warship fired on our fleet," Admiral Ta responded defensively. "Our scout vessel defended itself after repeated attacks," Ambassador Jin corrected gently. "The sensor logs from both ships will show that at no point did the SS Invictus fire first, and at no point did it use lethal force. We disabled your vessels rather than destroying them." Admiral Ta looked around his bridge. The truth of the ambassador's words was evident in the damage reports. Dozens of ships disabled, but very few destroyed, and those only when their power cores had become unstable after being hit. The human warship could have annihilated his entire fleet. Instead, it had shown remarkable restraint. "We accept your request for peace," Admiral Ta replied formally, his voice heavy with the knowledge of his terrible mistake. "What are your terms?" "We have no terms," Ambassador Jin replied with a slight smile. "Only an invitation to talk, to learn about each other. That is why we came to your space." 3 days later, representatives from both species met aboard a neutral vessel, a space station that the humans constructed in less than 48 hours, demonstrating yet another aspect of their advanced technology. The Concordiate sent its highest officials. They arrived nervous and uncertain, expecting harsh demands from the humans whose ships they had attacked without provocation. Instead, they found the humans eager to share information and establish friendly relations. Maps were exchanged, showing the true extent of human territory, a space much larger than the Concordiate had expected, with dozens of settled worlds and hundreds of outposts. During a break in the formal talks, Captain Han approached Admiral Ta. The human captain showed no anger, despite the damage his ship and crew had suffered. "Your fleet fought well," Captain Han said, offering a traditional Concordiate gesture of respect that surprised the Admiral. "But not well enough," Admiral Ta replied bitterly. "You could have destroyed us all." Captain Han nodded. "We could have. But that's not our way. We prefer understanding to conquest. In our history, we learned that destruction is easy. Building something new together, that's the true challenge." As the diplomatic talks concluded, news spread quickly throughout the galactic community. The story grew with each telling, how a single human ship had humbled the mighty Concordiate fleet, and how the humans had responded to aggression with mercy rather than revenge. Diplomatic envoys from a dozen species rushed to establish relations with humanity, eager to meet this powerful new civilization that combined advanced military technology with unexpected wisdom. 1 week after returning to Concordiate space, Admiral Ta submitted his official report on the first contact with humans. He ended it with a personal observation that would become famous throughout the galaxy. "In humanity, We have encountered a species that masters both the art of war and the wisdom to avoid it. They know when to fight and when to talk, when to strike and when to show mercy. It is perhaps the most dangerous combination of all, and the most worthy of our respect. The end.